For your eyes only, I made a mistake and live and let die. It was actually this film where he went and killed Blofeld. Yeah, I actually made a mistake, and I made a mention of why I actually made the mistake in the last video. Of why I thought it was Live and Let Die he killed Blofeld in. Because Connery's Bond movies tend to lack a certain identity compared to Sean. Like, I will never mistake a moment in one of the Sean Connery movies for a moment in one of the other Sean Connery movies. Whereas with Roger Moore, I sometimes blend a lot of those stuff that happens in his movies into other movies because if I'm going to be honest, nothing really they seem to lack a certain level of identity or uniqueness to them. They all have a similar feel throughout, but while at the same time trying to be different as well. So, should note, it's actually this movie that he killed Blofeld in. And that actually makes it worse than with Live and Let Die, because if it was at Live and Let Die, I could at least understand the idea of that happened basically immediately after the events of our Honor Majesty's Secret Service and Blofeld was getting revenge. Because when we see Blofeld in this, we don't see his face, mind you, but when we see Blofeld in this, he's in a wheelchair. He's still got a broken neck. It's implied this is pretty close to after he killed Tracy originally, which also doesn't make sense because this film took place. Let's see now. Majesty's Secret Service was 69. This one was 81. This took place 12 years. 12 years. 12 years after Her Own Magic Secret Service when that happened. So already your timelines aren't meshing up. But okay, let's for sake of argument say that different Bond continuity still was married. Same thing happened, but the events of On Her Majesty's Secret Service or the Roger Moore equivalent of those events happened sooner in this compared to this one than it did in the other one. So ultimately, it's one of those things where it still also doesn't really. Even if that's the case, it still doesn't end well because Bond's just cracking jokes like, "Oh, you want down, do you? Keep your hair on." And it's like he's just cracking jokes like, "No, this is the guy who killed your wife. I would think you'd want a harsher revenge on him." So that's kind of how the movie opens with him. Um, but take that out of the equation. What about the movie in general? Again, the movie in general, James Bond is assigned to find a missing British vessel equipped with a weapons encryption device and prevent it from falling into enemy hands. I mean, apart from that, what do you remember of this film? Because I'll admit, there isn't a huge deal that stands out to me. This is definitely, when it comes to weaker Bond films, one of the weaker Bond films. This is one of the more forgettable Bond films, too. Like, the title only comes up in the very end of the film. It's like, "For your eyes only, darling." It's like, "You can only see me naked." Like, okay, great, good sentiment, whatever. Talking on this too at this point, Caroline Bunquet, because it's Bouquet, Boquet. Anyway, Caroline played Melina, who was the main Bond girl, and Bibi, who played the secondary Bond girl, the skater. Combined, their ages together were not as old as Roger Moore, and Roger Moore even went so far as to comment on it. Like this, it made him feel. He commented that Bond should have maybe tried to take a bit more like a fatherly approach as opposed to the lover approach. And similar to when we get to A View to a Kill, he felt it was a little awkward for him to be in a relationship at that point with women this young. And yeah, it is because it's at this point too. You can see Roger Moore's age starting to show a bit. Like he's still generally looks like his Bond, but it's clear he's getting up there now. He's not the spry guy he used to. used to be. He's not doing a lot of action sequences. When he is, they're not. It's not that impressive. There is a fun scene where they're being dragged by a boat with sharks and coral reefs. I do like that scene. That's a pretty cool scene. There's a ski scene, if I'm not forgetting, if I'm remembering correctly. And then Bolt's like a decathlon shooter who's like one of the Bond henchmen. But ultimately, the problem is the Bond villain in this is so weak. Christados is the Bond, and he's made to be like an ally of Bond in the beginning, and turns out he's a villain. And damn it, I had some eggnog. It's that time of year, folks. Get your nog on. Get your nog on. Get your nog on. Okay, that was weird. But I had to do it. Yeah, it is a little it's unfortunate because he was a charismatic guy. Julian Glover. He's a charismatic guy. His character just has no bite to him at all. Like, I don't see this guy as a threat. Because he comes out as like the bad guy near the end. When, we've been working with dealing with other characters. Like, it's just like the surprise villain in this doesn't really work towards this film's advantage. There are some memorable sequences. Like I said, I remember them being dragged behind the boat. I remember the car chase and the hilarious non-Bond car, because his car was set to, if it was trying to be broken into, it would explode, and that's what happens. So he gets stuck in the Bond girl's car, which is just like this little mini car. I did find that pretty fun. Unfortunately, as I try to think more on the movie, it's hard for me. Like, this is one of the movies I didn't rewatch leading up to reviewing, and I probably should have, because I am not remembering a lot of things about this movie. And you know what? Honestly, I think that actually might be a good thing, because it kind of speaks to the quality of the movie to me. Because like its Bond song isn't even a very good Bond song in my opinion. It's on my low tier for Bond songs, because when I hear a Bond song, I think, and I'll explain this more in depth when I talk about Bond songs in that list. But when I hear Bond song, I think of a song that not only has to be good on its own, but it also has to be good within the film itself, like as a background piece of music. And in that respect, For Your Eyes Only actually is nice. It does work in the context of the background music. But as a Bond song, the problem is almost every other Bond song you hear, you think that's a Bond song. Goldfinger, yeah. Hell, even Octopussy isn't the best, but it's better than this because, it has a build. It has a build to it. Was it all I wanted was a simple all-time high? It builds to that. Whereas For Your Eyes Only just sounds like some sort of soft pop, soft rock song. Doesn't sound like a Bond song at all. So it's one of those songs. It's one of those Bond songs. And one of those things that's like, if that's the tone you're bringing to this film, it's like this doesn't work out at all. I do wonder too if we swapped the 6 films each Bond did, make it in the proper time frame for those actors, obviously. So they'd be like as young as they are. How would like Connery be handling these movies? Let's see. This would have been equivalent if this is the 4th film in the Moore series. So this would have been when Connery did Thunderball. I wonder how that would have. That's an interesting question when you think about what if the Bond films were switched around. How would that have played out? Because it would have had a different feel completely. Like it would have. First off, would have been done in an earlier era, but it also would have just felt different too. Just with the actor, just with Connery. Whether you like Connery or Moore, they both bring a different presence to the character. And then you have to wonder how Dr. No and all those guys would have felt, would have handled with Connery's films. My guess is Connery, again, and this is probably stemming from my own somewhat bias, Connery would have been able to handle the Moore era of Bonds better than Moore would have been able to handle the Connery era Bonds. Because I'm just trying to think of Roger Moore being trying to be like in Doctor No, that scene where he's got the guy at gunpoint in the car. It's like, I'm a veteran of special. Like, move. Like that tough guy was like, I can't see Roger Moore just suddenly like having that commanding voice and that like authority in his voice like that. I can't see him doing that. Whereas Sean Connery can definitely play up the suave angle, certainly, but he can bring his own gruff a bit more than or Moore could to his role. Because Moore's roles weren't really about like showing off the gruffness of Bond or the more intimidating aspect. It was more the gentleman Bond, which Connery could certainly play, but it would allow him to kind of, I think, breach the gaps a little bit. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. And I mean, about half of his movies came out in the 80s. But half of his films, or Moore's films, also came out in, actually, 4 of his films came out in the 70s. So the Bond girls you had for them would have still been around in the 60s. So like Live and Let Die, yeah. Granted, they were all young. They all were pretty young back then, so they might have actually been too young to play the character. I don't know. I just random things that come to mind. Ultimately, though, for our eyes only, when you mention to me like a forgettable Bond movie, this is a forgettable Bond movie. This is one that I remember it exists, but I remember very little about it. And I'll be honest, even if I had rewatched it prior to doing this video, I still probably would have remembered very little about it. Maybe that's one of the ones I'll have to go up and watch next, is For Your Eyes Only, just to see how it holds up. But ultimately, that's my thoughts on For Your Eyes Only. Definitely one of the lesser Bond films, in my opinion. But is it one of your favorites? Is it one of your least favorites? Let me know in the comments below. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. And hit that bell if you want notifications. So, assuming that I haven't already done my what if already for today. This is Saturday now. I think I'll be done for the day with this video. But we'll see. I don't know where I'll be at when it comes to this. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Later, folks.